Hi everyone, welcome to our painting webinar. This is so exciting. Thanks so much for being there, and we're beyond thrilled. It's been too long. We were talking on Wednesday about how just skipping a few sessions feels like an eternity. So it's so nice to be back. We have a fantastic group, and we're super excited. Today is Friday, December. I can't believe I'm saying the word December 4th, 2020. If you're watching us from the future, we're here. Jen, how are you, love?
I'm awesome. Super excited to be here. I like your how your bow tie is black today.
Yeah, of course.
I
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we'll give you a little preview. We're going to be together 3 hours. The first 2 hours we'll be painting. We'll take a break for 10 minutes, and then we'll do critique time until the third hour. Feel free to come in and leave and come back, paint or not paint. So don't feel obligated to anything. We're just here for you. I'll be modeling the session. And yeah, so Jen will be co-hosting. So if you have any questions, you can put them on the chat. And yeah, so yeah, and I just selected an image, and I'm just gonna go right ahead and start sketching since we already did the introduction, and I'm really excited. We just selected images with a specific composition. So they're all close-ups of a single crow, and you're welcome to bring your own if you have it and do something different. But this is one of those assignments in which the shape or the subject seems very simple, but it's going to be very complex. And we love doing these assignments because it presents an opportunity to actually work value and detail more so than landscapes or portraiture. So not only we love the subject conceptually, but I think from a painter's perspective, this is an excellent opportunity to just enhance or develop variation of values, bring even third notes. So it's going to be deceptively simple, and we love when that happens. So I'm just I used 12. I'm sorry, 11 by 17. Let me just switch the paper, and I'm gonna start right away. So yeah, 11 by 17. It's a paper, it's a format. This is the format I'm using, landscape orientation. And the format is rectangular. And I like to talk about the format for a couple of reasons. Depending on how much time you're going to dedicate to this, a bigger format like this, 11 by 17, may be a little bit too big if it's only one pass or one session. Um, I choose this one just because it's so sorry. It's so much better for the camera purposes, and hopefully that's going to help you guys. By the way, you can remove everyone who is not on video. We just keep two cameras on, so it makes everything super simple. And we keep this webinar style, so if you want to intervene, just do it through the chat, or you can text us, text Jen actually. So then as it gets recorded, it just becomes more educational, I guess, or whatever. But yeah, there's an option if you want in Zoom. If you just hover to any of the screens, there's like three little blue dots. If you click on the dots, there's a drop down menu, and you can hide any of the non-video participants. So you only get two screens. You can also pin the screen. It doesn't affect any view, just your own. So feel free to manipulate your screen so you have what you want to see. Um, so yeah, we just featured this one for everyone, and then we'll just flip back and forth. So one of the things that I'm able to do is to just get a printout before the session. I have a Kinko's nearby, and I just pop in and out. And I know that it's crazy out there, but I am lucky to have the printout, and I use it side by side because it helps me just to measure things in a horizontally aligned alignment, basically. So yeah, I'm just gonna set up the top, and I'm gonna set up the side. So I have some lines that are cropped, and I'm gonna start with the scaffolding of my um, arrangement. So again, 11 by 17, that's my format. Depending on what you're using, you may have to adjust the composition, and composition is going to be crucial. It's one of the most important things that we talk about in every painting webinar. It's amazing how we tend to forget the kind of format we're using, and we end up arranging things on the format based on the image rather than considering the format. So always, always, always compare whatever you're adding into the format with the edges of it, because you want to make sure that the painting is integrated within the format, and it doesn't feel like it's off camera or off, not off center, but off frame, off frame. So for that matter, what I do is I just set up what I call scaffolding lines rather than just points, because I know that those lines will allow me to set up distances between what I'm drawing and the edge. So nothing feels too close or too odd. Uh, I said this before, I usually try to remember or remind myself the edges of a format act almost as a powerful magnet. Whatever gets closer to the edges gets really pulled by the edge. So you think you have half an inch and that's going to be enough, but it's actually, it almost looks like it's cropped. So make sure that unless it's intentional, know that the sides of the format act as a magnet. They pull whatever drawing it falls nearby or close to them um, towards the very edge. So, okay, so I think that's going to be what I'm going to do, and use whatever tools you may have. I'm just going to use this tool to set up my horizontal alignment on the beak. And this, I can just measure it. And I'm just going to, yeah, this is, I tested it. That's good. I'm going to do the testing on the other side. I think that's good. I'm just retesting. And now that I have, there's nothing on my format that's recognizable. So don't worry about anything becoming um, recognizable. Just set up your scaffolding, set up your crucial lines, your points, your cropped elements. So if you set up that framework, then it's going to be a little bit easier to develop the lines. So for example, I just want to, well, that's not going to be, I'm just going to set up this alignment. I think that's good. And then I'm just going to go for what I call my potato shapes. A potato shape, it's sort of like an amorphous silhouette, an outline that allows me to preview whatever shape it's just gonna happen or be there. So this is my first potato shape. I call it potato shape because it's not precise, it's not extremely calibrated, and the only function is to allow me to find out what kind of negative space, what kind of arrangement I have, how much distance do I have from the silhouette to the edges. So it's a non-committing outline, and I will develop it later, but I don't judge this potato shape because it would be unfair. I mean, it looks what it looks like, and it's just the beginning. It's a crocus, it's a draft, it's just the beginning stage. So I'm happy about the space on top. I'm happy about the space on the side. I think that's good. And in regards of the negative space. Sometimes what I do, instead of focusing on the positive space too much, I treat the negative space as a shape itself. So that's what I'm doing with this. I think that's okay for now. I think that's okay. So once I have the potato shape, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back and try to refine or start recalibrating that shape by retracing it, but also manipulating it. There's always movement and change when I go back to an area that I drafted and I want to elevate it. There's always something that gets adjusted or moved. So I use the potato shaped silhouette as a guideline. I flicker my eyes back and forth, and there's something really powerful, satisfying, and original about observing and translating. We could easily do that replication or recreation by measuring even further, but there's something about painting that I love, and that is the fact that it's never 100% perfect. There's always a little bit of the distortion or exaggeration that happens when I translate, and I treasure that. So don't feel like the exactness of the sketch will give you validation to continue forward. I just feel like it's important to, yeah, it's important to just know that we're making our own translation. Okay, so this is it. And then there's a descent. Sometimes what I do to check angles is, let me see if I can just do it maybe. I just align the handle of a paintbrush. I lock my wrist and then and I notice that there's a little bit more of an angle. So I'm gonna try to shorten this a little bit and then make it a little bit more inclined. I think that should be okay. So yeah, checking angles and working on silhouette first. And we do a lot of things with animals. We do a lot of things with animals. Another good thing about this subject is the fact that we, sometimes I want to say words that are too big for me. Anthro, Jen, you're gonna have to help me. Anthropomorphize.
Anthropomorphize.
Okay.
I know it's impossible.
um, and what we tend to do is we treat animals and shapes, especially when they have faces, we treat them like as if they were human. And especially with birds, we do that a lot. We arrange the position of the eyes in a way that feels almost human-like. So that's why I'm really excited about this subject, because it's an opportunity to really practice observation, recognize how we associate faces, and we end up doing the same face regardless of the subject. And also, yeah, so observe when that happens and then recognize it and hopefully change it. All right, so I think this is a good second step. So I did my potato shape. This is a second pass on the silhouette. And I feel a little bit more confident about, and by the way, I'm using charcoal just because I need that flexibility. I need to make changes. Part of the process, and that's one of the things that I love about um, charcoal. It's the fact that in tutorials that I've seen online, I recognize that the art instructors, they put a lot of emphasis in drawing in a very rigid way. The drawing is absolutely perfect before they start the painting. And from a painter's point of view, that it's not what happens. I don't feel that's realistic. It's just I'm going to say the word, the wrong way of approaching this. In my opinion, there's always um, the drawing always is present. So, and it always morphs depending on how much detail I add. So it's never static. So I'm saying this because I love charcoal. It allows me to mold and change and adjust All right, so I'm gonna go for structural lines, and on the crow, structural lines are lines that divide or split up the subject into smaller pieces. So in regards of the crow, the main one would be the line that separates the beak from the face. So I'm just gonna use soft lines, and I'm just gonna try to bring that. And then there's the eye. So what do I do with the eye? So let me see if I can just bring some horizontal alignment, because the eye falls in a way that I cannot really anchor it with a point of reference. And that's the key and the problem and the issue that it's going to, I hopefully it's going to come up. It's the fact that we don't have any point of reference to position the eye. And then we rely on our own associations with the face, and we make the eye too close to the beak because it looks odd if we make it too far away. And then things start to kind of like, get out of control without us um, voluntarily making it out of control. So what I'm doing is I'm just using, again, some alignment and finding out if I can relate that position of the eye based on um, any alignment, vertical or horizontal. And I feel like this is going to be a good way to kind of like add it. Again, I'm early stages of drafting. I think that's going to be okay. So I have to rely on something else um, rather than just what I think it's the right place. Because again, association is really powerful. It works from the subconscious, and it's just going to tell our brain that something's wrong. Um, so rely on something else. Rely on alignments or relationships with something outside of it. I mean, we talked about this when we did the portrait, the Trans Lives Matter portrait, and then Amanda brought up the fact that she likes, when she gets stuck with this association mode, she likes to flip the image upside down. It's a way of tricking our brain away from associating. So I don't think we need that, but if you have a printout or if you want to try it, give it a try. Because what happens when you flip the image or you change the orientation, then yeah, associations are a little bit harder to establish. Ooh, what am I doing? So I said I'm just gonna go to structural lines. Yeah, so I was starting to shade already, and I like to go one step at a time. So I think this probably, yeah, I'm happy. I would have put the eye a little bit closer to the beak, and it's gonna happen, and I hope it happens. And that's why I love this subject, just so it allows us to recognize the ticks and the habits that we have. Okay, I think that's good. So flickering my eyes back and forth, constantly making alignments. I think this needs to be readjusted. I said again, what I said earlier about the drawing morphing. I think this is very important for me, not to make something super rigid. There's always an opportunity to make changes. If you see or you have lines that are too dark, now it's the opportunity to shade them or remove some of the charcoal and rebuild them. I don't want to get too caught up on the exactness of the drawing because I need to realize that this is only a draft. So this doesn't have to be perfect before I start painting. I think that's a mistake. I feel like, thinking that transitioning from dry to wet means that we stop drawing and then we start painting. It's not really accurate because the drawing continues whether we use dry media or wet media. It doesn't stop. It just, uh, we could work on this for days and realize that there's a curve that it's not where we thought it was going to be. And that's drawing. Um, and I think I forgot who said it, but drawing is painting. I think I don't know who said that, but Jen, you can help me out. But yeah, drawing is painting. It means that the most important thing that happens is drawing, and then painting. It's something that is important, but it's not as important. All right, so I think I'm ready for um, Values right now. Yeah, perfect time. So I'm gonna give myself those 10 minutes to do values. And shading is the most important part of the sketching process because it allows us to move from linear to um, the illusion of 3 dimension. It allows us to study the light direction, study the light quality, bring together all the shading and highlights so they look like they belong in the same scene. So give us an order of what are we going to work on first, rather than just working on the eye or the beak. I'm gonna work on darker to lighter. So working by value rather than location is a good idea. So I'm just going to switch to the side, and this is going to be really fun because what I'm doing is I'm trying to break down or break down, articulate, or how will be the word, deconstruct this values into gradient or a scale from darker to lighter. So what I'm doing right now is I'm looking at the image and finding out what's the blackest black, the darkest shadow. And then I'm just going to block it out. So I'm just going to block it out and just analyzing and finding out where is the darkest. And notice that I switch from linear to blocking things out. So this is very helpful, and it's just going to help us visualize more things drawing wise that we miss just with the lines. The more pressure you put, the more charcoal is going to be there. I mean, the idea is not to make it perfect, but just find or deconstruct those values. Yeah. And also to make sure that we fade the line into a shape. And that's what's happening with the little bit of shading that I did. It doesn't look as linear as it looked before. And that's helpful. This is going to be much lighter. So I'm just going to concentrate on the position of, yeah, I'm just so happy about this subject. And yeah, there's so much information, and um, it was so fun to actually learn more about these birds. I mean, they're not, I feel like it seems like they're not everywhere, but they're very picky on where they hang out. And as we mentioned, I think we mentioned it in the studio time. Some people um, use the analogy of bikers to explain how these birds get together. You know, they just drive in and just because they want to, and then they just hang out as a group, and then they leave. And I just love that. I just love that analogy too. And I don't know, I didn't have time, Jen, but I don't know. I think it was a European thing. I don't know the origins of why crows were associated with evilness, because in traditional or older cultures, that's not the case. But
Huh.
I think I read it was like in Europe. So yeah, maybe. Um,
In Europe, excuse me, in Europe they were associated with evil, or that's more of an
yeah,
American.
I think tales and legends and stuff, they associate the crows with darkness and
Yeah.
spirits. And I think in one of the articles I read, it mentions that that's more of like a European tradition, because in
Hmm.
most cultures, like in China, in native indigenous cultures, they're not associated with that at all. Um, so it's interesting. They're associated with good luck, actually.
Whenever I think of a crow, I just think of Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh,
The Raven, nevermore. And he's kind of creepy. So
oh,
my
yeah. Maybe
association
that's
for sure.
yeah,
But yeah, let me look on it. Let me look on it.
yeah. All right, so I'm just like slowly building those values. And I know that the rest is not a highlight. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna softly uh, um, bring in some of the charcoal, and that's gonna distinct that from the background. And it's perfect time. I still have 5 minutes. So I'm not gonna go nuts about this shading, but I'm gonna take the opportunity right now to find out if there's anything that I could change position wise. But by the way, I was thinking of the movie The Birds and Daphne du Maurier novel. I haven't read it, and I wonder if in the novel, because I think in the movie there is something, I forgot the movie, but I think there is something about um, uh, there is a reason why the birds go crazy in the story. I don't know if in the movie they just talk about the environmental issues or something like that, but they're not just evil for the sake of it. So I wonder if the book even goes further, just saying, you know what, we just messed with them, and then I want to read that book. All right, I'm just gonna bring a little bit more darkness, but what I'm doing is I'm multitasking. I'm bringing values, but at the same time, I'm checking drawing elements. So I want to make sure that, like for example, this eye, I feel I need to bring the beak a little bit closer and bring that darkness right here underneath. Because the relationship between the eye and the beak, I feel it's just going to be crucial. Yeah, I'm looking forward
Okay.
to. Tell me.
I was just gonna say I do know the answer to that, Julio.
Okay.
So it seems that at first they didn't know. It's not explained um, in the book, which is sounds strange. But then I guess someone did more research with Hitchcock himself, or I don't know, or somehow realized that Hitchcock was moved by I guess attacks from poisoned seabirds that had happened, and they discovered toxic algae on 3/4 of the plankton the birds ate, which damaged their nerves, causing seizures, disorientation, and death. And I guess Hitchcock saw this and was moved by it. So that's, I guess, why he chose to make the film. Um, yeah, I don't know. Weird.
Yeah, no, that's good.
You're right. Yeah, I guess they ate something strange and were poisoned. Oh yeah, that was it. It was a real story that happened. Um, I think. Hold on. Let me read more, guys. Sorry, this could be
Yeah,
totally.
no, that's good because I know that I wonder if there's something also connected with the book or what, but in regards to that.
Yeah. So it's okay. So what I'm reading is it says that it's never explained in the book, but it says the iconic image from Hitchcock's The Birds, which was reportedly based on real incidents in California when flocks of seabirds crashed into houses and died.
Wow.
And it says that they're pretty convinced that the birds were poisoned from toxic algae. So yeah, I guess we probably killed them.
Wow. Interesting. Cool. Thanks, Jen. That's good info. Yeah. I only read Rebecca from by Daphne du Maurier, and I absolutely love that book so much. So I think she was incredible, and I just want to read more. And perhaps this would be a good opportunity to just grab that book. Okay, so I just gave myself until the first half an hour, and I think I'm pretty content with what I've got so far, which is a base, a draft, a sketch. I'm trying not to overdo it, just because I know the difference between a draft or a crocus and a final drawing. So with charcoal, once you get into the mood, you feel like you can change things and manipulate and adjust. And it could be tricky because then you move from a draft to a formal drawing, and it just feels really terrifying then to uh, transition to wet medium. I think I'm just gonna leave it like that. And I'm gonna talk about my palette, and I've been working on a portrait, so I didn't change my palette, but it just uses the same color. So I'm ready to move from dry to wet. And the most important thing before you do that, check, I would say three things, because now it's the time and you can manipulate and change and check that. Check your composition. And to me, the composition, it's not just the things within the subject. The composition is also the relationship within, from or with, sorry, the relationship of whatever it's in the format, and then the edges of it. So always check the distance, always, because right now we can make changes. Remember, this acts as a powerful magnet. If you put it way too close, it's just going to look like it's cropped. And it creates interruptions, and it makes the painting look a little bit like it's off frame, unless you want it to be, and it's intentional. I feel like my philosophy on this, whether it's right or wrong, is this: practice or understand composition and how this is disruptive first. And then, if you want to break that rule, do it later. But um, with exercises and practices like this, um, what I would say is stick to the traditional as much as you can first, and then break the rule later. But I think for me, that's how I approach it. So look at the edges, the sides, see how far and how close it is. Composition. I know, Hania, you're joining us from the UK. I'm just going to reinforce that. And Laura, I think you're joining us as well. So look for things that feel very empty that we have to fill. And everyone else, just kind of like check the arrangement before you move forward if you are still sketching. Very, very, very important. What is composition? I'm gonna be like almost OCD on it. It's the relationship of what's within the format with the actual orientation, size, and shape, because we completely disregard this sometimes, and then we either have to squeeze things in, or we have to fill something out, or it feels like it's, we haven't controlled that organization. Or that's step one of a good painting. And again, I'm not going to go into right or wrong, but feel comfortable within what's traditional and orthodox in regards of composition, and then break it later if you want to. All right, so palette wise, I have the neutrals. I'm just gonna go down, and it's just gonna be a dirty palette, but I just didn't wanna. It's the paint's still fresh. So the most important thing, and Deborah, we're so excited that you're joining us. You have no idea how happy we are. Thank you so much. We miss you, and it's so humbling that you just decided to kind of like join. So anyhow, so there have been a lot of changes ever since last time you joined, and we introduced new colors. And so we have a new white and we have a new black. So now we have the titanium, but also we incorporate the zinc white. And we did a tutorial about the different kind of white paint. And some brands have up to like 9 different kinds. And we dug a little deeper, and we realized that zinc could be a great, excellent paint to have in order to create, to blend, to diffuse, and to soften things without creating too much of a whiteout, because titanium white could just really be too white towards the end of the process. We have our gray, medium gray, and then we introduce the Van Dyke brown. So we still use the Payne's gray as a cold black, but we learned that Velasquez, his favorite colors were a warm black and a cold black. So he used the Van Dyke brown, and we realized that it's an excellent color to actually, in fact, you can see that I used it a lot because on the portrait that I did, I needed a warm black. So Van Dyke brown, excellent. It's a staple on our palette right now, and we use it all the time. And then right here, I have my browns, raw umber, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, which it's one of the colors that we use the least. And then ecru or titanium buff. We also have our own. We have our neutral, light neutral colors or colors that we use to paint light. Um, the salmon rose, aka um, I forgot the name, but the radiant red.
Radiant red. Yep,
Yeah,
there you go.
thanks. And then the radiant blue, also we call it periwinkle. We make a distinction between the name of the color on the brand and the actual name of the color associated with a broader scale. So we use gambling. So the gambling names this color radiant red and radiant blue, and each paint manufacturer will name certain colors differently. So the color that we found associates with this paint more broadly is salmon rose and periwinkle, a light pink and a light blue. Why we use those? Because those are great alternatives to white. They contain a lot of white in them. So sometimes when we want to lighten something up, instead of using white, we go back to these two tones, one cold and one warm, in order to create glows. So it's an excellent way to bring highlights without resourcing to titanium white, because again, titanium white could create too much of a whiteout effect. So that's why this for us are neutrals. Obviously, they're not browns, but we call them light neutrals just because they're excellent to paint light. The reason is because they have a lot of white in them. So we also like to organize the palette in a way not only that goes with primary neutrals, secondary neutrals, and light neutrals, but also from darker to lighter, which is an excellent way to organize any palette. Let's say you have a lot of colors and you don't want to, or you want to disregard the neutral criteria. Um, by the way, I learned that um, the singular of criteria is criterion. So I had no idea. So I should have said that word. I don't know. Don't pay attention to me. So anyhow, you can organize the colors from darker to lighter. That's also a very traditional way to put the colors on a palette. Rather, if you think like, you don't know, you have a few primaries or you only have primaries, just do blue, red, and yellow in that order. So from darker to lighter, it's also a good way to organize it. So this checks two boxes for us. Neutrals, so primary neutrals, what we call primary neutrals. We call these secondary neutrals and then the light neutrals, and also from darker to lighter, from this point, darker to lighter. So that's how we organize it. And then just gonna go right ahead. I hope you guys are already uh, staining. And that's gonna be my explanation of, I have all the brushes. This is probably not very good, but I use safflower oil. I have them all here. I don't wash them. There's a reason for it in oil. If you wash a brush, no matter how much you wash it, there's gonna be some particles of paint um, uh, in between the toes. Is it the toes of the brush, Jen? I already forgot.
So yeah, the toes is the very edge of the bristles. Um, you might be thinking of the.
I forgot.
Let me look it up.
Anyhow, but yeah, while you look it up, the part of the bristle that gets closer to the metal, it's really hard to remove it with soap. So if you just clean them with soap and then not use them at all, that thing is gonna dry and it's just gonna make the brush sort of like open up. So even if you wash them with soap and water, just put them, oil them. It's a way of preventing that paint to getting dry. So
The heel.
the heels, yeah. The toes are the
Toes, heels,
and belly, I think, right?
belly.
Yes.
Yep, you've
Awesome.
got it.
Thanks, thanks, thanks. So I'm gonna use a big brush, and then oh, and I'm using two liquids. I'm using two liquids. One liquid is mineral spirits, which is the solvent that I use to clean the brushes, but also to do the staining. And the other liquid, it's very personal. I prefer to use a combination of an oil and a synthetic medium. And I learned that most contemporary artists, they don't use 100% oil, at least at the very beginning, just because it just tends to be a little bit more challenging to layer things on a short period of time. So it's pure laziness, really. Also, the surface of the paint, if you only use oils, it's going to stay wet much longer. So some painters that they have a commission or they want to do something and they have to shape a painting, if it's only linseed oil, it's just going to take a little longer. And so I like to use a combination of a synthetic medium and an oil. And Deborah, I think this is for you because we changed this not recently, a few weeks ago, a few months ago. So I used like a solvent-free medium by Gamblin. It's non-toxic, I should say. It's non-toxic, and it's a synthetic medium with a regular drying time. It doesn't speed it up or slow it down. But I like the fact that it's solvent-free. And then I pour a little bit of poppy seed oil. Yeah, it's an oil that it's not super yellow. Well, actually, it's a little bit yellow, but it's less yellow than linseed oil, and it just slows the drying time a little bit. So I just have it in my cup. I just pour half and half or something like that, and it allows me to um, be able to paint after a few days. Yeah, and have the paint on the palette still wet because of the poppy seed oil. All right, so what am I doing next? The staining is the step that's supposed to seal um, the charcoal and prime the paper. And I'm gonna use neutrals for that. And I'm just gonna block out lots of turpentine, a little bit of paint. My black right here, it's very cold. So I'm gonna go darker to lighter with some Payne's gray, and I'm gonna block out. So big brush because I wanna go fast. And this is a very technical step, also very traditional. And remember what I just mentioned about the traditional steps. Be comfortable with traditional approaches, and then break them if you want to do something different. But I just feel in that sense that it's not a bad idea to um, not learn or be aware of what's more traditional in regards of like painting and the reason why, and then you can decide if you like that or if you want a different method. So traditionally, uh, the stain, it's supposed to prime the painting surface. So I refer to this as the format up until now. Uh, so now I'm referring to the painting surface. These are two different things, format and surface. And they seem the same thing, but they are not. The surface is the actual quality of material that you apply the paint on. And that's also very important because depending on the painting surface, you may need a different kind of brush, you may need more or less quantity of the liquids. It just varies. Every painting surface creates a different engagement. And it's very important that you understand uh, the or expectations of the painting surface before you feel frustrated because this is like, oh my gosh, it's not giving me enough, or it's dripping, or what am I doing? And so I'm using cotton paper. This is a paper that was specifically made for oil paint. It has a wonderful flat surface, which I love, and also not a lot of absorbency on the material. So this is also very important. Uh, the most challenging painting surface that I find is canvas board, canvas, especially when you buy it and it's pre-primed. they just put like a 3 or 4 coats and then that's it. The micro pockets on the canvas are so annoying. I have to put more paint in the beginning, and it's just a little bit tricky. So um, what I do with a canvas board, I like to add more gesso layers if I buy it. It doesn't matter how much money you spend on a canvas. You still have to add gesso if you want to find, if you want the engagement to be a little bit more comfortable. If you use a board that's just wood, that's just going to be too porous, and I recommend to put like a layer of gesso. If it's paper that it's not cotton based, it's going to be too absorbent and the brush is going to get stuck. So it's really uncomfortable. So it just depends. If you use a non-porous surface like a polymer, like plastic, um, or metal, that's just going to give you a different result or a different engagement. Um, so depending on what you use, you may need to use more or less of the paint. So I flicker my eyes back and forth, but the idea here, this is a very foundational step. The idea here is to guide myself with the charcoal, darker to lighter, to know the order of my brush strokes, the way I'm going to lay them. Again, I'm not working by location yet. I'm not working by location. I'm working by value. It's a way of being more efficient. And yeah, I'm going to open this. Oh, okay. And then I'm going to take the liberty to bring some of the light color. Usually, traditionally, people do this with only one color, one paint, one color, one paint. They use one pigment and that's it. And they do it monochromatically. So that's traditionally what people do. And notice that I'm already using a brushstroke direction that conforms with the direction of the feathers.
Leo, I think your mic got hit when that happened, and we're just losing. Just it seems a little muffled now.
Yeah. How's this?
Much better.
Thanks. Okay. 1 second. Let me just. Hold on. That's just gonna. Okay. I think that's it. All right. Let me know. But I think, yeah. All right. So I'm doing a combination of the Payne's Gray because I'm recognizing a cold black. And what I'm doing is trying to separate, and that's also very important. I'm trying to block out. So blocking out means to do patchwork. And this is important at this stage because already we tend to stir paint too much. We have a little bit of the lighter blue and then we just go to the dark, and then the dark becomes lighter and the lighter becomes darker. So think patchwork, think big masses of color fields, and try to interrupt or stop your application of brushstroke depending on the value. In other words, so I apply this one right here. If I want to go back to darker one, I'm gonna possibly like clean the brush and then go back to the Payne's Gray and add a little bit more. But I would be aware that if I don't do that, then I'm gonna make the darker areas lighter. And then when I go back to the lighter areas, I'm gonna make them darker. So yeah, I think I need to bring a better rag. I'm using paper because what I do is I like to use paper when I take the brush out of the oil jar to just absorb the oil first. So the rag doesn't get too oily. And then I use the cotton rag to clean. So I'm doing, what am I doing? I'm like on staining. That's a proper name for this. I'm doing staining. I'm trying to build um, values by order, guiding myself with the charcoal. Just being aware that I need to create a patchwork effect and making sure that the values are as distinct as I can make them. Um, Otherwise, things will just look uh, like one single tone. That alone, I mean, this is really satisfying because that alone um, allows me to build a nice idea of value. So it's just going to make the painting later much more satisfying. Um, don't worry about timing. I love when Hania just take the 2 hours to do a sketch and a wash, and that's it. Um, this is wonderful. So so don't worry about where you end up at the end of this. It's okay. We all have different speeds, and sometimes going faster may just not be um, or not give us the results that we think. Okay, so I think that is. I'm trying to just block the darks and make sure that they don't get too um, uh, how what's the passive like steering? No, that's okay. Forget it. It's just yeah, blended or mushed. So I try to create patchwork as much as you can. This is good practice for that. One of the things that I love about the image is not only the orientation of the face, of the head, but also this mauve color on the background. I love this lavender tone. So I'm just gonna go ahead and mix the two tones that we talked about, the light neutrals, the salmon rose and the periwinkle, and then I'll just bring that tone. Whoa. Let me just bring some Gamsol. And I think time wise, if I can just do this before the first hour, I will be happy. Uh, so yeah, this is an excellent example of why we have those two colors on our palette. It's not just because we like them, we use them all the time. I just, every artist and art instructor will just give you different recommendations for what colors to use. Usually, what I found online on YouTube and stuff is that the more professional the artist, the more limited the palette is going to be. I was really surprised, but also it made me happy. Um, so some artists only use primaries, and that's it, because they understand that there's a difference between raw material and color palette. Um, okay, so this is my wash, and I am very happy with it. And I'm just gonna take a little break. So I finished the staining, and I feel like I was able to consider the fact that I wanted things to be very patchwork like, and I just wanted to make sure that things didn't get too blended. So I think I'm okay. Yeah, and drawing wise, I'm already identifying things that I want to change. There's a little bit more of a curvature on the beak. There's line, it's a little bit more angular. So this is what I talked about, the drawing not stopping, even when you move on to painting. But I think I'm okay with this stage. And then I'm just gonna, what I like to do is I like to strategize um, considering the time that I have left. So I think since I have an hour on this, or I'm allocating an hour, what I'll do is the first half an hour, I think I'm just going to continue building. Yeah, I'm going to continue building the figure a lot more. And then we'll see where I land. But I've done bird portraits before, and I know that what takes the longest and most detail is the area around the beak and the eye. So I'm gonna reserve the last half an hour to just work on those two details. In other words, I'm not going to put the same amount of detail all over the crow. I think this is a raven, by the way. I'm not sure. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna in half an hour I'm just gonna try to build highs and lows on the entire figure, including eyes and beak. But then I'm going to reserve the last half an hour to enhance this section. And it's important. Um, I talked about composition at the very beginning and how important it is. Composition um, could be applied to different fields. Um, when I talked about composition earlier, I talked about spatial composition, the composition regarding the location of objects or lines or drawings in regards of the format. So within the space, that space. But there's other stuff that relates to composition. Detail composition is a thing. So um, I could decide what area in my painting will concentrate more detail and which one will be more underdeveloped. That is also composition. I am creatively deciding areas that are going to have more detail and areas that are not. So don't think like everything has to have the same amount of detail. Um, there's not a, there. It's not a rule. There's nothing that falls into the category of right and wrong. But just know that not everything has to be the same with the same detail. So I'm just gonna bring some smaller brushes. And Jen, did you find anything, any articles or notes or
The
about?
crows and the I found a little bit that they were associated with like witches' tales. Um, hmm, um, I can't find it now, but essentially it was like that they're associated with witches' tales and witches, and then like um, I think like just let me go back.
No, no, no,
Hold
it's
on.
true. I mean, you brought that, and then yeah, it just appears. It's funny because in the articles that I read, there were a few references to this, but mostly there were other facts. Um, but yeah, maybe it's the weather. I don't know. Although in Australia now it's springtime, so we'll see. But yeah, anyhow, so yeah, if you find something else, let us know. So I'm just gonna bring medium brushes, and I usually say save your old hairy brushes because those are amazing. So this will be great for blending, but also to apply more of a pixelated or rather mosaic-like um, layer of paint, which I'm gonna do right now. So I just have two of the same. Maybe I'll just use different values. But and I also brought one that it's a little bit newer, and perhaps I'll just it's still medium, but I may use it to create a little bit more definition. But I'm gonna start with the medium old hairy brushes, and I'm gonna move into first notes territory. And what are first notes? First notes is when I build on my wash and I actually start pulling out um, a mosaic-like effect. So I'm not blending or anything, but what I'm doing is I'm gonna follow the same order. I'm gonna use less medium, and then what I'll do is I'm gonna start creating a little bit more definition by creating edges. So there's a lot of liquid, so I don't need to on the surface. So I don't need to put too much medium. But right now, what I'm doing is I am just blocking out. My brushstroke motion is a little bit slower and tighter, so it's not as loose. And yeah, so what's the difference between this and the wash? So we're just building on the foundation right now. And the difference is that now I'm a little bit more aware of the edges of um, the paint that I'm applying. So darker to lighter. Okay, by the way, so if you don't have Van Dyke Brown, that's not a problem at all. You can just use, what can you use? Raw umber and a little bit of the um, Payne's Gray. If you want something blacker, you can mix both of them together, and it creates a super black note. I'm not adding any Mars Black because I just feel that I want to um, create something with a little bit more temperature.
Okay, I found one kind of interesting thing. You might have talked about this already, Julio, but so it says that crows and ravens are opportunistic feeders, which means they eat a variety of food, nuts, seeds, meat, whatever is available. And then in medieval times, ravens and crows would follow Viking ships because they knew that once they're on land to pillage and burn, there would be blood. That way, people began associating the birds with death. The Vikings didn't mind at all and even embraced the companionship of the clever birds. In Norse mythology, the god Odin had two ravens. And it says since then there have been other cultural references that connected crows and ravens to death. For example, Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven and Hitchcock's The Bird.
Wow. Okay, that makes total sense. Thanks for that.
Sure. And then I think they also talk about like their memory and face recognition. And this one person tells a story about how this crow attacked her um, while she was running because she later kind of figured out that the crow didn't like her neon orange running shirt. Um, and attacked her like every day. And she was like, "What the hell?"
Wow.
They have a way to call other crows um, in support. So yeah, I think maybe they're social. I think because they're so damn smart, like you said, they have the thinking capacity of a 7-year-old. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's pretty huge.
that's really huge. Yeah, but that. Thanks. Yeah, that's. Yeah, I mean, seriously, after reading all this, and I'm like, I'm seeing them eye to eye. I'm like, dude, don't. um, peace. I'm not gonna do anything, because
I
yeah, they
know.
remember faces, right?
Yeah.
They remember faces, and they nickname us. Depend. I mean, uh, but they. What I love also is that they leave. It has never happened to me, so I wonder what that is. But they leave gifts if they like you, which I didn't know about. But that's kind of
That is really sweet.
yeah. Um, so yeah, I'm just doing first notes and slowly just building on what I have. Barely any medium. I'm not using turpentine at all right now. And what I'm doing is just going to the darker areas. I'm trying to also find out um, the feather organization because I think that's very important. I always talk about non-conforming brushstrokes, but with this, I feel like we could just apply some conforming ones. I'm not worried about texture. I think texture is I'm gonna talk about it, but I'm not gonna do it right now. I'm just gonna start with direction. So rather than just finding out or just doing like those details, I'm just gonna talk about direction. So I'm applying those mosaic pieces. I go from uh, blocking out to mosaic, so a little bit smaller, and I'm trying to apply um, those tones, those darker tones. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about a couple of things. Number one is blending, and we've been we've introduced this concept of categorizing blending based on the location where blending happens. And that means that there are two main blending categories: when you blend color on the palette and when you blend color on the painting surface. And for me, this was really important because I knew that I blended on the palette, but the blending on the painting, it was I didn't categorize it, or I didn't regard it as something that would even exist. I would blend. But now I understand that, there is such a thing as moving the paint around when you are on the surface, on the painting surface. And unless you have a purpose for that, what I recognize is that I would start blending more on the painting surface than on the palette. And that took me to the excessive blending on the painting. It took me to blurring and flattening and muddying a lot of the areas slowly but surely. So just know that there are two main categories, or some artists categorize blending based on the location, and that we should work towards doing most of the blending on our palette and refrain from doing too much blending on the painting surface, at least at this stage. Because if we don't, naturally we're going to start moving paint around on the painting surface, and then we're going to lose definition. We're going to lose the illusion of the three-dimensional effect. So if you need to switch or change tones, um, almost like dictate or tell your brain to tell the hand to blend on the palette. And it's a good opportunity to do it right now because we are on the mosaic-like stage, the first notes. And this is when we go a little bit nuts and we start blending already. So yeah, just make sure that there's not too much blending happening, number one. And if there is, it's on the palette and not on the painting surface. All right, and another thing that I wanted to introduce that I think it's really helpful. Let's see if I can find the plastic. Yeah. So, and I think Deborah, you're gonna like this. If you have a printed, but even if you have a screen, maybe in the screen it's not gonna work as well. So we just brought a new painting hack. So it consists of having like a cellophane, a plastic. It could be the what is it? It could be a Ziploc if you cut it up. And then what I do, and I love doing this, what I do is to study the color by applying the cellophane on top of the photograph, if you have a photograph. I know that I sent the images 1 hour before starting, so possibly that's not gonna be able to happen. But what I do is to study the color by applying color samples on top. And I think that's important because we think like we have the colors, but uh, we need to understand that what we have is the raw material. We always have to process the raw material, and that means that we have to mix that paint with something else. So by doing this, I'm able to analyze how dark and light and how warm and cold the color sample I'm making on the palette is. And I want to bring this together with the fact that I'm not going to do as much blending here. I'm going to mostly do it on the palette. And since I'm doing it on the palette, I'm going to take the opportunity to really study the color before I apply it. So let's say you have a screen and you don't have this. You can always compare your color by oops, sorry, by just putting uh, loading up the brush, and maybe a smaller brush would work, and putting it against the screen so you have an idea if it's a little bit too dark or too light. So before using this hack, we would do samples, color samples around, and yeah, or nearby. But I cannot tell you how incredibly helpful is to actually study the color. So I'm just doing like the beak, and I know it's too cold and too dark. So I'm gonna bring some gray, and that's gonna help me understand. And that's too blue, so I'm gonna bring some of the Van Dyke Brown to warm it up. So there are two criteria. I can use that criteria. There are two criteria that I use to make new color. Number one, I know that I have to mix colors no matter what. So that's why I don't bother cleaning up my medium or the even the turpentine or the mineral spirits. Honestly, I don't bother because it's actually helpful that I bring some pigment into the mix. Um, but yeah, what I try to do are the two criteria that I use are value number one and then temperature number two. So let's say I want to make a gray. Okay, I just want to make a gray, and I don't know if it's blue or purple or depending on the feathers. So what I do is I just put like a little bit of the coal black and the gray, and then I test it. And once I test it, the first thing that I look at is it too dark? So I can always make a color darker by bringing another color that has white in it. It doesn't have to be titanium white. In fact, it probably never is. I can bring gray. I can bring ecru. I can bring one of the two light neutrals, the rose, the salmon rose, or the periwinkle. White is not just the titanium white. There's white in a lot of paintings, so I can change the value by adding a tone. So, and I think talking about ecru, I think this has a little bit of ecru in it. The second thing that I do is to gauge if it's too cold or too warm. So I can always find ways to warm things up and make things colder without having to put red or blue. So, for example, the browns, there's a warm brown, which is the burnt sienna, and there's more of like a neutral brown. So I can always manipulate the temperature and find out. Yeah, I need to bring a warmer tone. And that's the reason why I love this subject, regardless if it's an animal or a bird. It's the fact that the simplicity of the surface allows me to really study the color. This is a painting that it's not about detail, it's about variations. And that's why it's so good that we do this. So good. Because we can really study color. Okay, I got a gray that I'm happy about, and it has a lot of browns in it, and a little bit of ecru. And why am I doing this? Because right now, even though I'm on the first notes, I'm interested to start learning about variations of color. So I know that this specific tone on the beak has this gray, and it's hard to appreciate on yeah, on the screen. But anyhow, and I'm not switching the brush. I just want this old and hairy guy to do the work for me. And this one is a little bit darker. So once I have, I don't have to do every single piece of color. Once I have one or two colors that I study, then I can make colors based on that reference. So I'm not going to do the comparing with the darker notes. I know this is a little bit darker. So yeah, I'm just going to go that way. And I'm working darker to lighter. So I'm not gonna do the mid tones or the lighter tones. I'm gonna stick to, yeah, I'm gonna stick to that darker range. Another thing that's important, even though we're doing first notes, is to consider the edge of our painting. So not only I'll be working on darker areas first, but I'll go back to the violet or lavender, and I'll just apply it to bring it closer to that edge. I need a little bit of medium. So this is not just work that I do to start building my mosaic like um, shapes on the first notes, but I also start bringing some edge work on the silhouette of things. So yeah, um, I'm not going to do the whole silhouette, but since I'm working on this area, I think it's important to, or it's a good opportunity um, to introduce that. So I'm just going to shade this down a little bit. Okay, and I'm just gonna leave it like that. I just did it because there was a little bit of dripping also, and I just wanted to shave the edge. It's also very good not to get caught up too much on one part of the painting. We once we get engaged, and that's natural. Once we get engaged, we tend to sort of like become obsessive about the likeness of that area. I recommend not to get attached to one area uh, for too long, especially too early in the process. Uh, this is what happens to me, and when I see it happens to pretty much everyone. I may just spend like I could spend like 5 hours the whole afternoon just doing the beak and really have a good time, and really savor every single brush stroke and feel really happy about it. The problem is that the rest of the painting drifts away so much and so far that after 5 hours, I would be so exhausted that I wouldn't have the energy to work on anything else. And it creates a fracture. It's very hard to then bring up the rest of the painting to the level of that area. So I recommend to just not get too caught up in one section. Just do a few. You can even time yourself. Do a few brush strokes and then move somewhere else. That will be underdeveloped, yes, but when you spread your drive, your stamina, your energy, your creative juices, um, you're gonna help the entire painting at once and not just one area. And it happens because we get so happy when something starts to look kind of like nice that then we want to dedicate more time. It's like favoritism. We have a favorite part of the painting that becomes more and more and more favorite, and then we see the rest of the painting as a mistake, or it's like, that was wrong. I love this, but the rest I just want to get rid of it. And then, as Dina says, you want to throw that painting off the cliff of the Malibu cliff onto the ocean. So in order to avoid that, just be democratic and be a good painting parent. Just dedicate a little bit of time to everything. By the way, speaking of painting parent, I don't know if you guys watched the video. I put a link of a video of a crow that was rescued. I don't know, Jen, if you watched it, but they rescued this crow, and then the household had a dog and a cat, and so they just showed the crow the food and the location and all that stuff. And after the crow just learned about all that, immediately after, what the crow did was pick up some of the food and give it to the cat and give it to the dog. And I just, it made me want to cry. It was so beautiful. And the crow was kind of like bossy because the cat, of course, didn't care that much because, you know, it's a cat. That the cat walks away, and then the crow starts kind of like pecking on the cat's butt, saying, "Yeah, where the hell are you going?" Um, it's just so beautiful and hilarious.
Good.
Yeah, you should watch. It's just a few
Cats need
minutes.
to be taught some manners.
Yeah, yeah, you could totally see the crow saying, what are you doing? I'm feeding you. You can't go away." The dog obviously is like more chill and then just gets the cookies or whatever that is. But it's so beautiful, and then I just freaked out. I put a video of I think it was a raven talking, also a rescue, um, but that was really scary almost. So crows and ravens can replicate noises better than parrots, by the way. So yeah, another rescue raven, and then the owner just repeated hello and stuff like that, and it's just amazing. So that's in the link of um, the email that I sent yesterday. If you guys want to watch it, it's hilarious. I'm just bringing a warmer, it's not black, but a warmer dark tone on what looks like the um, iris of the crow. But I'm not going to go too deep into that eye anatomy because there's a lot going on. And bring my painting hack because I want to analyze and assess what kind of sheen and light reflection I get on the feathers. So I'm just going to put the blue, and obviously it's very light. And I may need to bring other blues. So I'm just going to go to my paint box and just bring the blues. And oops, something close. I don't know what's happening. Oh, okay. Yeah, never mind. Um, Organize your paint by color. There's nothing more frustrating than wanting a color and then going to your paint box and the color is going to hide from you. It's not going to show up. So a good way to actually, I think Julie, you'll be happy because I think I'm seeing some Prussian blue right there, and I know you love that color so much. So and yeah, Deborah, Prussian blue. We did a tutorial, and it's a better blue than um, the ultramarine. It's a much better blue than ultramarine. It's much more realistic in regards of landscape and um, objects. Realistic meaning much more applicable. Prussian blue with ultramarine, French ultramarine. Ultramarine is so blue that if you look around you, on other people, it's very hard to find surfaces that are actually French ultramarine. Prussian blue, it's still really strong. It's not. It's very it has a high chroma, which means it has a lot of pigment, and it's very colorful. But the blue has more of a greenish tone, and it's much more applicable to surfaces. So I'm just gonna bring Prussian blue, and as I said before, with synthetic pigments, be careful when you add a synthetic pigment. I'm just gonna explain this while you hopefully paint and do amazing job. So we're really happy that our staple palette it's based on organic pigments. Organic pigments mean mineral pigments from nature, from rocks and stuff like that. Organic pigments, because of their natural state, they don't have that much pigmentation. They're very colorful, but when you mix them, there's something about them that make them very much very flexible, not very flexible, very good at not overpowering other colors. Synthetic pigments like phthalo, quinacridone, and the Prussian blue, they're not made from natural sources. They're chemically made, and that makes them really powerful. So when you bring a color or a paint that it's made of a synthetic pigments, be careful because the color will take over like this. We would think that it's a color it comes out of the tube. It's the same color as the same brand. So I'm just going to put 50-50. And unfortunately, the tubes don't say if it's organic or synthetic. You have to ask somebody in the art store, which they're supposed to know, or ask for a color card that explains if it's synthetic or organic, because it's a huge there's a huge difference between both of them. Prussian blue is synthetic. Oh, it's so beautiful, and that does it. Okay, so now I studied the color and I just applied it, and I know the base, so I can just remove that, and I'm just gonna go ahead. But yeah, so none of the colors we use on the staple palette is synthetic. But then we just added the Prussian blue, which is synthetic. I'm just gonna paint this with a big mosaic-like piece. And time wise, I just 5 minutes, and obviously I'm not done with the first notes, but I'll just move to the next stage. Every time I make a color on the palette, I just do it in a different spot, so I know. Um, yeah, I know my color history. I can see my actual color palette. So every time, yeah, again, blend on the palette. Try not to blend at this stage too much on the painting surface. Just try to blend on the palette. All right, so I'm slowly just building some of these cooler tones. And I think now I'm just gonna move to a brush, a medium brush, but a little bit younger and less hairy. And I'm just gonna bring some notes right here. I think that's good. Um, this could be a good opportunity to bring some uh, zinc white. Zinc white is a good color, a good paint to bring later in the process, but I want to bring some lightness without creating too much chalkiness at first. So I'm just gonna bring some zinc. It's very transparent. Zinc white, it's very transparent. When I first used zinc white, I hated it because I thought, well, this is not white enough. I didn't understand um, what this was good for. Um, but now I think it's such a good paint to have, just because it's great for blending, for example, because it doesn't take away from the colors that you're blending. You can just keep the colors still highly pigmented, but they give you it almost feels like a medium in a way. And with a surface that it's a single color, like the crow, like the feathers, but has variations in value, zinc white, it's so helpful. You can change slightly the variation of um, value without yeah, so I just applied some zinc white here, really transparent, wonderful, in the sense that it doesn't white it out. Yeah, and I'm just gonna bring some zinc white because we want the value to have subtlety on the beak. Subtlety is important. Subtlety um, means making things tonal. Again, it's very traditional. It's a very traditional approach. But my philosophy or my take on this is learn the traditional before you break it. So I just brought the separation because we make some weird things on the beak of birds in regards of like the separation and the value. I just brought a little bit of zinc white, and that alone helped me to create a distinction without painting a line in the middle. I said it as if it was a sin. So sorry. Um, I also like looking for paintings of crows, Jen. I feel like the Impressionists, um, they were not fans of birds in general, but of birds in particular. And I didn't find any paintings by Impressionists of crows. Um, Impressionists didn't like black, so maybe that has something to do. They didn't have black in their palettes, so maybe that's something to do. But I don't know if you can find any. All right, so I'm gonna bring some zinc white, but yeah, I couldn't find any references. I'm gonna bring some zinc white on the edges of the eye. So my recommendation when you paint, develop the eye, develop the beak, try to paint by non-association, which means just observe the curvature of things, the value of things, pretending that you're not painting an eye. Because otherwise, you're going to start making almond shapes, and you're going to start even bringing like white of the eye. And in the it's just so amazing how our brain associates things. So I'm just trying to paint what I see, which is easy to say, but it's not that. There's a rim that it's not white, it just reflects the light. And then um, there's a little bit of a darker paint inside. At this stage, possibly, and this is the final half hour. So I didn't do much work here, but I think I'm not I don't feel frustrated. So I said that the last half an hour, I'm going to dedicate it to these two facial features. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some work on the eye, but I'm going to also build the background a little bit more. So expand this area so it doesn't feel as washed. And then whatever minutes that I'm going to have left, I'm going to try to bring some texture, feathers on the beak, and also create some texture on the upper part. So I'm going to concentrate, that's going to concentrate most of my work. So let me finish the eye. I'm going to work on the background, and then I'll just go back and create second notes. So I'm going to leave this underdeveloped. There's darkness outside, so I'm just going to try to bring it. Again, try to make your blending work on the palette first. The minute you start dragging pigment too much on your painting, it's just going to create flatness. It's a habit, and for a habit to get take root in our practice, we have to be aware of it, and we have to make an effort to break it. So just understanding it, it's not going to do it. We're still going to blend a lot more on the paper or the painting surface, I'm sorry. So again, do most of your blending on the palette. I'm manipulating and changing some of the edges. And now I'm mixing the Van Dyke brown and the Payne's gray to create a much darker black. My brush strokes are really short right now, so I feel like I'm drawing with the strokes. I flicker my eyes back and forth. Yeah, so this would be a little bit more the eye developed. And I'm gonna go back now to the background. Maybe I'll just bring in the other old and hairy brush and then continue this lavender and purple. And a little bit of gray. I don't want that color because so the lavender has a little bit of red in it, and um, based on color theory rules, I guess anything that's warm on your painting comes forward, and anything that's cool um, goes back. So I'm adding a little bit of gray because I don't want that lavender to come forward too much because otherwise it's going to flatten the perspective. So I want to make sure that whatever's warm, it's treated differently on the painting. And for me, I don't have to compromise the temperature when I can um, make it a little bit more tonal. It's still going to be lavender, but with the addition of the gray, it's just going to push it back. And then you can see already, I can create perspective without having anything architectural, no vanishing points or diagonal lines, um, just working with temperature. And adding that gray, it's a way of keeping the red in that mixture, but pushing it back. So I think it's definitely working. And in fact, that was one of the reasons why I chose that painting. That contrast between the blue um, and the lavender on the background. There was something that I found really beautiful. I'm really happy. I'm really happy. So yeah, where I'm at in regards of like the traditional process, I'm still doing first notes. I'm still doing first notes. I know there's some highs and lows on the background, and I'm all for adding more variations. But for now, I'm just gonna create one big, huge pixel. Whoops, I don't know why that happens, but okay. Um, I'll do um, I'll do the highs and lows later at a different time. I just want to make sure that things get integrated and not broken. I just have an issue with parts of the painting that are blank. They affect everything. For me, I encourage or I just like to um, have paint everywhere. So I think that's good. Yeah, I think that's good. And just take a picture of your painting with your phone because you know what helps me when I do this with the setup that I have? It helps me to look at the image of the painting in a much smaller scale on the screen of the computer. There's something about it that I can, especially because I'm sitting down and I cannot step back. If you're moving around and you're standing up, if you're standing up, step back, because that's going to give you a good sense of how the painting is progressing. But if you're sitting down, just take a picture with your phone and then just look at the screen. The fact that it's a little bit smaller, a lot smaller, gives you a better sense of how things work on the painting. All right, so just this kind of like helped. It really pushed the background back, which is what I wanted. It just built it so it's not looking transparent or washed anymore, and then it just frames the uh, figure beautifully. It just makes the bird come forward. So I'm really happy. And now I'm checking the time, and I'm gonna continue with second notes, concentrated on the beak and on the eye, and also on top. I wanna perhaps practice the. Maybe I'll do this first. Texture and how I'm gonna do that. Second notes are different from first notes because they consist of going to a specific location and then trying to create variations of that color within that location. So I talked about color blocking, I talked about mosaic, and this is sort of like a pixelating work in which I create highs and lows within the same location. Second notes are not about introducing new color. They're about um, creating or expanding the spectrum of the same color within one location. So this would be the first notes because it's all the same color. So I'm going to try to bring variations of this color on this area to create second notes. So first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to concentrate the brush strokes on this edge because that's the edge from dark to light. And already I know that I have to bring some darker black. Like I'm already changing the drawing because the black area goes higher than what I had it. Okay, at the same time, I'm also switching to the background color because there's something right here. Not only it's a little bit shaved, but it's also blurry. And that's something that is very important. If we make every single edge on our painting harsh or hard, it's just going to look almost flat. So in nature, um, things are not super hard. There's always a little bit of softness. So I had, this is a photograph, so naturally there depth of field, so I can see things that are a little bit blurry. But I encourage you to identify the different edge quality on your figure so you can uh, translate those variations on your painting. Because if everything is the same uh, edge quality, it's just going to look more like an illustration, and it's going to flatten um, the visual planes or the perspective. So I recognize, actually, I think I'm just gonna need to do um, the painting hack thing. So I want to find a color that's right up there, and this one is way too bright. So I'll just bring some gray and maybe some of the paints gray. I want to see what kind of like blue I can get. So first value, okay. So I think value wise is good, and then temperature. It's a little cooler. So again, when I mix, the thing about mixing colors is that there's not one set formula. Let's say I have the raw materials and my goal is to do a specific shade. So I know that there are going to be different paths to get to that specific shape. Sometimes they may involve a set of colors, and but I could achieve the same thing with a different set of colors. And we know that because when we did we practiced like skin tones, we describe different ways to achieve the same shade. So to me, explaining how to make a color, it's a little bit difficult because they're going to be different ways. So rather than just trying to set up a formula, I like to bring criteria, value and temperature. So I look at how the value is comparable to the color that I'm trying to achieve. And then I just move that needle to find out if I need to make it warmer or colder. And that's a better way to approach color mixing for me. Yeah, so anyhow, not to mention that as we work on this, we will be able to recalibrate our color criteria and make it more um, uh, sophisticated. So we may paint with colors at the very beginning of the painting, and then when we're halfway through, just going to look very flat and they're just going to look too out of the tube. It's not because we did something wrong, it's because by observation, our brain is recalibrating and um, offering us a much wider opportunity to identify different tones in areas where we thought we had only one. Um, so I think this is a little bit more of an icy color. Yeah, it was like too blue. So right now what I'm doing is I'm adjusting that blue on the edge. It's a little bit, yeah. And at the same time, I'm gonna bring some of the background color with some zinc white. I said the zinc white, it's a great color to blend. So a little bit of zinc white brings some body, brings body to the paint without bleaching it too much. All right, and then I'm just gonna make this a little blurrier. I'm almost exaggerating that. I'm exaggerating this is already creating second notes. Again, I'm trying to depart from the uh, mosaic-like and go into more of a pixelation. I'm just gonna try to blend things here. So I'll first blurry this and then bring some of the black on one side, bring some of the black on one side. And then I'll just use a dry brush with a little bit of medium, maybe some zinc white, and blend. Yeah, this is much darker. So I'm just gonna bring this darker one. Okay. And then sometimes, and that's why I love old hairy brushes. So you've seen the types of brushes that are fan, it's a single row and then they fan out. They're expensive and they're supposedly not supposedly they're great for blending, but we don't have to have them. I know that if I would spend money on a fan brush, I would ruin it in a matter of weeks because I know myself, and then I would probably squeeze them inside of the same jar, so I can get the same effect with old hairy brushes. And what I'm doing is with a dry brush like this, I'm just uh, slowly blushing. I'm slowly blushing between those areas. So that could help me create a little bit more of that blending. And then what? Let's just go deep into like feather work. So with a tight brush, could be small or it could be big, but a little bit newer. What I'm gonna do is treat this like hair. And when we talked about hair, we talked about 5 points. Um, I forgot the points, but I'll just remember. But one of the points was to bring um, the fibers from one side to the other side. So I'm using the same direction and I'm not brushing back. I'm just creating a stroke. I'm almost like cutting the paper and then lifting the brush. And what I'm trying to do is to bring or to splinter that blended area by bringing some of the darker paint from one side to the other side. So it's splintered or chopped. And then what I'll do is I clean the brush. I use a lighter tone, and I'm just gonna do the same thing with lighter paint from the other side. It's the combination of both sides that's gonna create a fibrous looking texturized area. Um, Barely any medium because I really want the toes. I want the toes of the brush to do the work. All right, so I think that's okay. And then there's a lot of pixelation here with some, I'm gonna bring some zinc white and I'm gonna try to, oh yeah, that's good. I'm gonna try to bring this fragmented, almost looks like fish scales. There's also some lavender mixed in here. So let me see if I can just bring a bit of the pink on top. Well, I think I need to start darkening some areas. It just looks a little bit too similar. So I'm just gonna bring the color that I created on this part. Yeah, I need to tone this down a little bit. It's too bright. So I'm gonna tone it down and also darken it. Yeah, and that is going to, second notes is the part of the painting that takes the longest, just because creating the variations, um, take more time, but it's the most satisfying. I'm gonna bring some of this darker note right here. And I feel like I need to bring those dark, hairy areas a little bit higher. So I'm using almost the brush, I'm using it perpendicularly. I'm not using the side of it because I want the toes of the brush to do the work for me. And I'm not brushing back. It's cuts. It's like micro cuts on the surface almost. Meaning like not that I'm cutting, but I'm acting as if I was cutting. Yeah, and I think this needs to be, I'm just gonna bring that zinc white just to blend or just create more of a slight um, splinter on this part. Because if I bring the titanium white, it's just gonna be too much. And subtlety is important here. Oops, I just put titanium white. So the zinc white, this is a good example why zinc white could be an excellent. So don't worry if you don't have it. You just have to be a little bit extra careful when you use the titanium white. So it's not a big deal. So I think it's slowly moving to a better direction. And I think I need to bring some dark on the eye. So naturally, this is the part when you um, see something, add a few tones, and then you see so much more, which I love. And then there's some blue. I'm trying to also close some of the gaps that I still have from the wash. So I'm just gonna bring some medium right now. And I think what I'll do is just close those gaps because anything that feels like that, it just kind of like bothers me. So I'll just bring the medium and I'll just close the charcoal gaps. Okay, and then this one right here. So I think I'm ready to continue with the beak. I have like a good. We'll just go over a few minutes, but I think I want to do the the splinter or the fiber on the beak because there's nothing that looks more weird when we paint birds than having the beak completely feel like it's not integrated with the head, especially with birds. We just paint the beaks as if they were Mr. Potato Head assembly line. You know, they just look attached to the bird, and naturally the beaks are not. They don't have a seam line or anything like that. There's a softness that integrates the beak with the head. So this area is crucial. It's very important to avoid making the beak look like it's an add-on or collaged or something that it's glued to the head. Um, so that's what I'm gonna dedicate. I'm gonna go over 5 minutes if that's okay. I'm gonna bring some of these lines and see if I can work with the shadow. Let's see. I think it's dark enough. I'm gonna start with the darks actually. And this is a Van Dyke Brown because it's not as cold. This black is not as cold. So I'm just bringing those lines. And I'm going to try to integrate, and this is Payne's Gray. I'm going to try to integrate the beak with the head. I think that is crucial to make a bird looking a little bit more, I don't know, or natural. I love painting birds. We did a few sessions with birds. The last one was the owl. When we did the superb owl last year, 2019, you guys. Although I'm so happier with 2020 now. With I think next year it's just gonna be amazing, and I'm so glad of many things. Anyhow, um, I'm trying to remain positive. So yeah, the superb owl was so much fun. We didn't do superb owls this year, Jen. During the Super Bowl. What happened?
Seriously. I can't even remember the Super Bowl. Was that this year? Oh Lord.
Yeah. yeah, I'm just trying to bring those fibers. And if you notice, I did dark first, and then I'm just doing the white on top. It just works a little bit better. Uh, ref- there's a lot of restraining or refraining, I would say, that happens um, during this area. I'm trying not to overblend on the painting. Okay, well, this is sort of like going into a direction that seems a little bit more developed. And whoops, something's wrong with my phone. I'll just like it's shutting off. I don't know why, and it's plugged. Oh, it wasn't plugged. Okay, guys, this is just gonna be a little bit. Okay, sorry about this. It wasn't fully plugged, so it's just gonna take a few minutes. But it's not bad. All right. Well, let me just do the final touches, and then we'll take the opportunity to reset the phone during the break. All right. So I don't know why this happened right now. Okay. Well, listen. I think this is possibly. I'm just going to change this, and I'm glad it's happening at least towards the end of the first session. Um, and I don't know why, but yeah. Oh yeah. So it needs juice. Okay, so I'm just gonna take this time to close the 2 hours, and I'll explain how this is gonna work and what's gonna happen. Um, we're gonna take a 10-minute break, and we encourage you to hydrate yourselves. I had some tea here, and I didn't even drink anything. Stretch. You know what happens when we focus on a task for a long time is that our muscles start to get a little bit tighter, so by all means, like stretch. I don't know. We need to bring like a yoga teacher to do a little bit of stretching during the break. Um, and yeah, so 10 minutes. Let's reconvene at 1:10 our time. So in 10 minutes. And then during these 10 minutes, if you could take a picture of the process of your stage and then upload it. It's not mandatory, obviously, and we understand if you don't feel comfortable, but this will be a work that we consider in work in progress. So we know that it's not a final painting. And over the months, we've learned that with everyone's experience, we all learn something. So we encourage you to upload it, and we'll just do some critique. I make the distinction between critique and criticism. So we'll also try to give you a list of things that perhaps you would like to consider if you want to continue working on the piece. But overall, it's a good way to help the whole group learn more about the practice and the process. So regardless if you've done just charcoal or charcoal in the wash, um, don't feel like it's not good enough. Just upload it, and then we can just give you some direction and some notes. It's good to have an extra set of eyes, and also yeah. So upload it if you can't. You can also text Jen with the image. It's super easy to upload on the folder. You don't need any login or anything like that. But if you have any difficulties, so the email that we send you before the session has Jen's number, so you can yeah, text it to her, and she'll upload it. And in 10 minutes, we'll spend the rest of the hour, the third hour, to chat about this and open the microphones. Feel free to stick around, but if you have something else to do, so don't feel obligated. As we said in the email, um, Keanu is quarantining with me, so yeah. Um, yeah, don't feel obligated to say goodbye or hello. You can always unplug, and it's all good. but hopefully we'll see you in 10 minutes. We'll see you in 10 minutes. Okay, I'm going to stop this. Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I hope you had a little bit of time. 10 minutes just fly so fast. So, um, thanks again. And sorry about this last couple of minutes that the phone wasn't working, but I just uploaded my images. And I'm also, what I'm going to do now, so we also um, allowed or reactivated the feature that allows you to unmute yourselves at any point during any time. So feel free to just jump in, and if you want to say something. So I'm going to share the screen. I love the images already, and I have so many things to say, but the paintings are beautiful. And also, even if you share your work, don't feel like you have to be on video or even talk if you don't feel comfortable. So don't worry about it. It's one of the things that I feel really weird about with video conferencing and stuff. Not anymore now, but I understand. It just feels so strange to kind of like talk. So don't feel obligated at all. Just we want to make sure that you feel comfortable as much as possible. So even if you uploaded the image, don't think like you have to say anything about it or show anything. All right, so here we go. I think I'm just gonna, and I'm hoping everyone, Jen, you can hear me, right?
Yep, you
Okay,
are a-okay.
okay. So I just thanks, just double checking. And I love that you uploaded a couple of, just takes a little bit of time. I don't know why. The etching of the impressionist artist.
It's cool, right? I actually uploaded the one from Millet and the Van Gogh one, but I noticed in your announcement in your dog and pony show that you had already referenced those, so I took them down. But evidently, that was one of the paintings that inspired Van Gogh's painting.
Oh,
That
wow.
and the Millet. I
That's
should
amazing.
that wrong, but yeah.
Let me see. I don't know what happens with my browser. So this is okay. So I think it's just um, I don't know what's going on with the browser. I was able to move images around and everything, but so I'm just gonna do one thing, you guys. I'm just gonna do. Let me see. Yeah, Um, I'm here, but I'm just gonna turn off the browser and then just open it again because something got stuck. I mean, obviously I have internet, but I don't know what happened with the browser. So I let me see. I may have to open it somewhere else. Hold on, everyone. Technology is dumb. I'm just gonna see if it opens in a different browser. It's not. Okay, I have internet. What's wrong with things today? Wow. Um, I don't know. Um, Jen, can you share your screen with the browser? Maybe.
Yes. It's just gonna take me a second because I just need to open up.
I don't know why it's not doing it with mine on either browser,
Okay, let me see what I can do.
which is really strange.
Hmm.
Maybe I don't know. And you can mention, or you can just add it in the chat. Are you guys having any problems with Google? Maybe there's something about the.
Yes, actually, I'm watching you on my phone today because my Wi-Fi is down since like 3 days ago. They're coming in on Saturday, so I'm lucky that I have this phone. They were able to get it up on my phone.
Oh, so in the yeah, but on the phone it works for you, right?
Yes, in the phone it works, but not on my. Well, at first it didn't, and then when I got them on the phone, they fixed that part. But somebody has to come in for the actual computer.
Oh, okay. Yeah. How about you, Jen? Can you open the folder?
Okay, I can open it. This is going to sound really dumb, but I don't know how to share my screen. So Carl's coming in to help me.
Oh, it's at the bottom on the menu on your Zoom.
Right, but how does it? I need to share this screen.
Yeah. So just when you click on it,
okay, go to share screen.
Thanks, Carl.
Go to more.
I don't know why my. Sorry, guys. More time to paint if you're doing touch-ups. That's all I'm gonna say, because it's so hard to stop at the 2 hour mark. So take this opportunity to add.
Oh, there it is.
Oh,
There's.
yeah. Thanks, Jen.
Sure. Wait, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. So good. If you want to kind of like scroll down and just like show us the.
Oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. How do you do?
Oh, that's good.
Okay, look, you guys, this is so amazing.
Yeah, I just uploaded all the artwork that we talked about in the introduction, and also, yeah, awesome. And I love the two images that you added. The news, the guy with the exactly. So yeah, 1961. That's amazing. And you mentioned that was related to what you read about possibly eating some toxic stuff, right?
Yeah, evidently they ate toxic algae and they went berserk. And yeah, it says that he was just rained down. Hold on, I don't know if I can open. Here we go. It says in it like, yeah, the algae were believed to have become poisonous after being infected.
Septic tanks. Oh man.
Ugh, gross. By the time I had stopped the car, they were raining down on me. Oh, it's awful.
Wow. And then also the sketch. Yeah. So that the only impressionist example, right? Yeah.
More than what you had found. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that it wasn't kind of like a popular subject matter.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so if you guys want, we can do. Let's just go to Hania first. She's in the UK and it's getting late there, and then we'll just go to Deborah, and then we'll just come back to the West Coast. So I noticed that Hania, you chose. The image right here, and I noticed the other two. So that's a beautiful image, monochromatic. I like the composition. So and I love that when you work on your paintings, that you only sort of like do the charcoal and then, if anything, a little bit of the wash. So my first thing here would be composition. That's beautiful. By the way, that's really nice.
That's the more updated one, Julio, and I believe.
Yeah, it's okay. So I think.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's good. It's perfect. You know, I think that's the latest one seems to be the last one right here. So you can leave it like that if you want, Jen, because
okay.
I have a good idea of like what was before. Because I think what you did here, I'm so happy that you worked a little bit more, Hania, on the painting. Because on the first pass, I feel like the silhouette was a little bit too kind of like compressed. You know, the head and the body of the bird seemed like too close together. And on the image that you chose, there's a lot of things that are happening. What I love is the fact that there's a tilt forward of the bird. So if you draw like a diagram, let me see if I can just draw this. I just cannot. But yeah, if you draw a line, an axis line that goes from the head to the tail, what you have is like an angle line or an inclination. And then what I like is the other inclination of the branches. So this is a very beautiful composition. And I would say I'm very happy that on your recent pass, you were able to pull the neck forward a little bit. Still, I feel like the bird feels a little bit more static on your composition. So the angle, it's a little bit closer to a vertical. And I wouldn't possibly change anything at this stage, but it's up to you if you want to manipulate it. But again, what I love about the image that you use as an inspiration and reference is that it's really tilting forward. There's a sense of like the weight or the center of gravity being a little bit more towards the left of the painting. So, Jen, if you want to bring her painting now, yeah.
I
So
believe this is the most recent.
the most recent. So perfect. I love the way you treated the surfaces. It's beautiful. I like the fact that the edge quality is all over the place, and that's a compliment. So it's very important that using the image that you had that was very monochromatic, that you incorporated something a little bit more artistic. So I'm glad that you moved away from the illustration. But I would say the tilt of the bird, it feels a little bit more vertical. And again, what you have in the inspiration that's awesome is that crisscrossing the axis of the bird and the branch. It's really amazing the way it crosses. So I would say I would work on that. But yeah.
All right. Should we move?
Yeah. So Deborah, yeah, if there's anything, and if
Let me check my email. Sure. Nothing was sent.
okay.
Yeah, I don't have anything.
Okay, so never mind. We're gonna move forward. And Deborah, anytime that you want to upload it, we're just gonna give you feedback as a comment later. So it could be anytime. We're still putting comments from people who upload like pieces from months ago. So, but we're trying to be timely with the comments. So let's go to Sarah Jennings because I know that she's always on a time crunch, and then she comes in a little bit later because she has interruptions and calls. This is amazing. I love the image that you chose. So what I would say is this. The first thing, when I saw the image, it's beautiful. There's something really expressive about the brushstroke, but compositionally, the tips of the beak, they're getting so close to the edge that I feel like they're being pulled and almost getting attached to that side of the painting.
Mm-hmm.
I know that that's the photograph, and that's exactly how it's cropped. So yeah, I wouldn't touch anything, but I feel like that it's what I see compositionally that I would just bring attention to. So, but yeah, I wouldn't, now it's just, I wouldn't move anything. Um, but yeah, anyhow, when did you join the session? I know you were busy.
I was 45 minutes late.
Okay, no,
So yeah, I did a quick charcoal drawing and then I jumped right in. So I think I could have taken more time on the drawing and pulled the beak back, but it was like that in the picture. And then I was afraid that I wouldn't have the proportions of the head in relation to the beak.
Right.
So yeah.
No, it makes sense. No, because at the beginning when I was talking about the composition and format, and so I just was mentioning, I was putting emphasis, be careful with any magnetized edge. The thing about the image though, it's like so expressive and it's so intense that the it drives the attention towards the subject. It doesn't become like distracting in that sense. So I just love the twist. For me, what happens here, it's not only the open beak, but it's a combination of the open beak and the twist of the head. It's something very emotional, and I'm pretty sure that you chose it because of that. But I love the colors on the feathers. Good job in bringing a range of temperature and also the brushstroke. But yeah, it's just really stands out in that sense of the twisting on the head and the open beak. It's very expressive. It's like a scream. It's like the crow is like screaming. So conceptually, I think it's interesting, um, and it just also drives you towards the expression. Because if it was more of a calm um, posture or orientation, then it would be compositionally, it would make more sense to study how far you put it against the edge or how center it is. But since it has this expressive motion, so that's what drives the painting.
I chose this image because, as you know, we have a Malamute puppy who is 2 years old and 180 pounds. And when he goes into the garden, we have crows sitting on the phone wire in the back, and and they scream at him, and he barks back, and it's really funny. So this reminded me of their conversation that they have whenever they see each other.
Wow, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So, and what do they do? I mean, what's they just kind of like talk to each other?
It's almost like talking. I mean, and he doesn't have an angry bark. It's just a conversational bark, and they're not squawking at him. It's almost like they're talking to each other about him.
Wow,
It's very funny.
hilarious. No, I think I would say, yeah, I would just give more, not attention, but I would develop the feathers a little bit further. I'm sure you're going to do that.
Okay,
Yeah. But
thank you.
fantastic. Thanks, Sarah, for painting it. And Jen, I just got back. I got my connection back. So if you want, you can.
Okay.
Um,
Awesome. Stop share, right?
yeah,
Okay.
and then I'll just share the. Thank you.
It was an honor.
Super helpful. Yeah, thank you so much. Um, so I'm just Lois. I'm just gonna go to Lois. I love the sketch, Lois. This is awesome. Beautiful. Look at this charcoal sketch. It looks amazing. Nice wash. How's
Oh,
that?
and then the painting sucks.
What?
Man, I like charcoal sketch in the wash so much better.
Oh.
I got wet.
Well, let's. I mean, I'm just gonna put it right like closer,
I
and
hate
then.
the orange and yellow. I hate that too. I'm gonna do red. Like, I love that red you did, Julie.
Oh, okay. Well, let me
Or
just.
blue. I don't know. Talk. Sorry.
Okay, that's the image, right? Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
Let me just bring the image, and I have a few. Oops, I have a few observations, and I think the painting looks great. So I'm gonna put it right here. Okay, so drawing wise, yeah, as you were building, I just feel like, for example, I mean, this is like strictly drawing. I would. It's a good example of how things happen in regards of like association, because what you did is that you put the eye much closer to the center of the head, and then it didn't give you enough space to do the length of the beak.
Well, yeah, I see that now.
So I would just, I mean, that's massive, but I think you can either do that or extend the beak. But it's the position of the eye, it's too much in the center of the head. And I would just pull it, I would pull it back.
Oh, okay, yeah, good observation.
So I think it's mostly drawing because if you pull it back, then it will give you the opportunity to really expand or extend the beak. And it wouldn't feel like the beak is feels like very short on the painting. But it's
Yeah,
just because the eye dictates that length.
interesting for sure. Wow. Okay, cool. Good.
And I love the background. I feel like it's very intense. I love the soft peachy color on the image. It's sort of like really calm. It's still peachy, but it's really calm. So I think it really brings the cold tones on the bird a lot. So I feel like this is very strong, and it makes the colors on the bird like more monochromatic.
Yeah.
So if you mute that peachy tone, the colors on the bird will come forward much more.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I can do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lois. I love the painting. There's something so satisfying about painting birds. I don't know. I love the fact that there's so much to work with.
Yeah, I love
So,
doing the brushstroke feathers is fun for
right.
sure.
Cool. Yeah. So I can't wait to see more. And then Laura, yeah. So I see. Let me see. You brought your own reference. Is that a photo that you took?
Yes, I just took that this morning, and I wanted to like catch a crow because we always have crows at Echo Park. But now that I'm looking at all those wonderful images, I think that mine maybe it looked like a crow, but it was smaller. But the eyes makes me believe that it's not a crow because there's yellow and the crows look like it's just one black.
I just think like it's okay. So number one, the fact that you took the photo, it just makes it so much better. And you know, I would stick with it because I know that the other photos like they feel very aesthetic in the sense of like close-ups and the images that are really well taken care of. And but I just love that this is a genuine snapshot of a moment in time that you were there, you were present. So I would stick with it. I think that's important. And in the end, at the end of the day, who cares what people think or say about it? What is this? Because people are dumb, you know, as we all know. I'm sorry to say that, but who cares what they say? I would say this in regards of analyzing. Um, I think in regards of the face, so I feel like the head feels really small compared to the body. So it just that could be a something if you wanted to work on that, because I feel like that would make it look more like a crow. The fact that the head's a little bit bigger, so it makes the body a little bit smaller, so it feels like it's a smaller bird because uh, right now it feels like it's a big bird, you know. But that's okay. I mean, I'm just bringing the observation, and obviously, I think the eyes, they're very. There's a lot of contrast on the rim of the eyes, so I would soften that a little bit, especially on the beak, because I
Yes.
think the beak is the most, the trickiest part. First of all, if you make the head a little bit larger, you're gonna have more space to do variations of value on the beak and the eyes. So that alone will allow you to work a little bit further on that very important part of the uh, of of the bird. Um, I love the way you treated the feathers. I think they're beautiful. I would possibly work on somehow, and I love the green, by the way, on the background, but I feel I would work somehow on grounding the bird because you treated the background like beautifully. I love the brush strokes, but I would just bring in maybe some shadow green, something that would make the feet feel like they're grounded on the grass. Maybe some more detail or because I love the fact that it's smoky on the background. I think that's really great. It's beautiful. But on the feet, somehow I would just perhaps bring more detail on the texture of the. Don't worry about the video. It's totally fine. Um, the texture on the grass, for example, like closer to the feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good actually. Yeah, and you know what's so funny? When you put them side by side the way you do, I can see the difference in the head. That helps actually. Like when you go back and forth like that, I can see the head is definitely
Yeah, a little bit bigger. It's
small
gonna,
for the body.
and I love that it's facing forward. So I think if you make it a little bit bigger, it's gonna allow you to work on the eyes. Yeah, I think it's awesome, and it's awesome that you. It's almost like the crow wants to give you something. Actually, we're talking about gifts and stuff like that. I know probably not, but you know.
I love it. I have to say, when I read about crows, this is Julie, they are one of the only mammalians besides humans that know how to use tools. And I thought right away that he had like a stick in his thing. Because I've seen crows take a rock and hit something, like they're trying to.
Oh my God.
They're fantastic. So I think this guy has so much character. I love your painting. Great.
Yes. And what I loved about him is that he was looking at me. I was like, yes. That's what I loved about him.
Yeah, I agree. So stick with the image and then just kind of like do a few touch-ups. But I think this is a really cool image.
Okay, I'll definitely keep working on it. Thank you. And
Thanks,
Julie,
Laura.
your crow that's red in the background is amazing. Okay, thank you, Julia.
Cool, thanks. So I'm just gonna go to I think Jen, you're gonna have to be Jen to the rescue, because it's like
Okay. Alrighty.
yeah. So can you share
it? Yeah.
Super easy. Something's wrong with my Google thingy.
Okay.
Awesome, perfect. Thank you. So we let's go to Jackie, I think. Oh wait, Julie. Yes, let's just go to Julie. Wow, this is an amazing, incredible, and I just love the fact that you just went so bold on the red background. I think it's just beautiful, Julie. It just works really well.
Well, it's from an old painting that was painted over. It's an old acrylic, and I had painted it over red, and it had palm trees in it. And then I thought, oh, this might work for the crow. But I don't know. It's a little strong. I've been in my strong season this whole year.
No, I think it's working. I think it's working, and especially because I love that the texture on the wings. It just lets the background go through a little bit. So there's something really, really beautiful about that. Yeah, I wouldn't change it. If anything, I mean, it just depends. So on things like that, for example, on the fact that there's this super powerful, strong color in the background, and then the bird becomes, or the figure becomes more monochromatic. So there are different ways of approaching it. I feel like here there's an opportunity. I would not temper the background at all, because that would be a different painting. And I think it's important to kind of like be true to your image reference. But consider bringing some kind of like third note glow on the feathers. And you have something a little bit like that on the neck. It shows there's almost like a little bit of a warmth glowing on the neck and the beak, because I think that's the opportunity that I was talking about. If you bring some of that warmth on the feathers, maybe as a cast shadow, maybe as a reflection, then it just integrates the background with the figure. So that could be an opportunity.
Yeah. So you're saying really put it as like an umber or a little bit of subdued red or orange or something. Okay.
Yep.
I didn't have time to do the front wing, and this was from a photograph I had took off the internet because I didn't sign up till too late. I thought I had signed up, but I didn't. So then I looked for photos, and then I finally got yours. So I haven't even finished the wing. So the red is showing through from the back, but I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think. I mean,
I like that too. Yeah, I like that too. I
I'm trying to
wouldn't.
be more abstract.
Yeah, I wouldn't block it out completely at all. I would just complement it with more of a warmth in certain spots.
Okay.
When you add some strokes, I would just bring some warmth, some orange, shades of orange perhaps, or even with the black, because I think that's just going to really complement it a lot.
Okay. And does it bother you, the background on the right side, there was a round shape that was dark and it doesn't go away? You know, it didn't go away when I did the overpaint a few days ago or weeks ago.
No, I feel like the way I read it, seeing the image, I just see I think it's I just see the blue peeking through like the palm tree, and there's
Yeah.
the blue,
Yeah.
and then I
And then on the
see
right side,
on
that
the right
black,
side, yeah, I just see the yeah.
yeah, that.
No, I think that's great.
You think that's okay? Okay. It's
Yeah,
also,
yeah.
it's big. I haven't really, it's, it's like an 18 by 24 inch canvas. So I gotta, you know, I don't know. I don't want to overwork it, but I think I still have to work on the wing a little bit to show a little bit more of the feathering.
Yeah, in fact, I will tell you this. I like the fact that there's a palm tree showing.
Well, that's, yeah, I do like that. I wanted to keep that little bit because this is from Windsor. This was a painting I did outside our house and we had so many crows up in those palm trees. So that's when I had this canvas hanging around on the floor. I went, oh, I should just paint the crow on top of the palm tree. But that was the only tree well, there was a little one to the left too, lower left. But
And also, did you use an image reference from the ones that we put, or
no, and I put it up there, Jen, if you want to scroll over it,
yeah,
put it right next to it, but it probably popped around somewhere else where you can look at it. It's up and it says Julie Grist on it.
okay, okay. So I would say this. The thing that I would work on is so the wing. I feel I would just temper it a little bit because you put perhaps a little bit too much highlight, so it looks like it's opening. The wing, it's kind of like open, and I feel like the grays or the value rather, the value, it's a little bit more
Right.
harmonious to the chest, and it
Okay.
just feels like there's less of a space between the wing and the body.
Okay.
You go back to the image, to the painting, Jen, because I feel like that's the only thing that stands out for me.
Yeah, I haven't really worked on that wing yet. So, but I
Yeah.
think you're right. It would.
I
it
would,
feel
I
better.
would, yeah, and also the shade, the darker shade under the wing. I feel like it goes, extends too much,
Okay.
so it makes the wing look like it's
Yeah.
very separated. So I would do a combination. I mean, consider it, and you could use the red or almost like a bronze color
Okay.
to bring it to the chest and the wing to kind of like lower that intensity or the highlight.
Yeah.
And then at the
Okay.
same time on the belly, I would just narrow the area where the shadow is.
Okay.
Yeah, so it looks like that wing is closer to the body.
Okay.
Somehow the upper part, it looks amazing, but the lower part, the highlight, the contrast, it's like a little bit too much.
Okay. Yeah,
vibrant.
go more gray and black. So I used, I did not use the brown, which, what is it called? I use Payne's Gray mainly, but what was the brown called?
Van Dyke Brown, Burnt Sienna,
Right. I sort of stuck with the
Payne's Gray.
Payne's Gray, so which has a lot of blue tint. So I wonder if the Van Dyke Brown would even bring the warmth I need. Or
Yeah,
should I-
a little bit.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, a little bit. I would. Do you have any quinacridone violet by any chance?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. I was talking with. I was putting a comment, a feedback on Studio Time for Lois, and I noticed that she was doing a landscape, and while things were on fire, and there was a very strong sense of rust. And I took the color and I analyzed it, and it was a combination of quinacridone and yellow
Oh,
actually,
okay.
to
That
create
could- okay.
sort of like a rust,
So
a
that might be
bronze
good.
color.
Right, because as it's painted right now, it almost looks like a seagull. You know,
It's the
too
wing.
light. Yeah, it's too light. So the gray.
Yeah, but yeah, just bring like the burnt sienna could work. The Van Dyke brown definitely will work. But if you want to create like an orange, like
Yeah.
you're gonna try the quinacridone and yellow and see what kind of color.
You think it's a warm yellow or the cool yellow?
The cool yellow, yeah.
Okay, I'll try both. I'll see.
Yeah.
But thank you. That's great.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Someone else is on the phone somewhere.
Yeah. Let me see. So,
Thank you, Julio. This was a lot of fun. And I want to say that my dog, Paco, hawks will fly over our yard and pool here in Ohio, and he just looks at them. And anytime a raven or a crow flies over, he goes wild, barks at them, and just goes crazy. And I don't know. It's something about their black winged or what they're telegraphing to him. I don't know.
but no other bird, like hawks and everything, fine. But
he's fine with everything else. But as soon as a crow comes, he goes crazy.
oh my gosh, there's wow.
Yeah. Oh,
Who
the
knows
other thing, can I tell you other really good story? I was
Please.
working in my studio in LA, which is back by the pool, and all of a sudden there were like 20 crows outside, just making so much noise, and they were like one was standing right on my door that was open, and they were all over the place. And I thought, what is going on? And I walked all around the garage, and in the back alley of the garage was a dead crow. And so I looked it up online, and they said crows, when they die, they mourn their dead. They have they have a funeral, a memorial. And that's what was going on. It went on for hours. I couldn't even scare them away because the dead crow was there. It was like, I didn't want to pick it up and take it. So I took it later that night.
Oh my gosh, Julie, I'm so happy you shared that because when I read about it, I was like shocked and I didn't know. But then I watched a YouTube video, and this is exactly what happens in the YouTube video. They call each other and they scream even louder for a very long time once one of their own passes away.
Oh, I'll look at that YouTube video. I didn't see that yet. Oh, that's good. Yeah, it's incredible. They're very social beings.
It's so amazing. I think, yeah, so amazing.
All right, I'll sign off. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that.
Okay, bye.
And I
Hey, that will be fun when all our crows can meet each other. Our
Say that again,
paintings.
Lois?
We have to have a group show of our crows so they can meet each other.
Yep. So Jen, I'm back. So if you want, you can. Yeah.
Great. Yep.
Sorry, guys. We're just going back and forth. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks. That was really helpful. So Jackie, oh yes, I'm sorry. Dina, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna go to Jackie and then thanks for uploading this image, Jackie. I just love that you juxtapose the landscape with the crow. So I think that's great. Let me just bring the painting and I'm gonna bring the painting and the image together. And
I also uploaded a reference image of a crow as well. That's somewhere in this album.
Okay, perfect. So I'm glad that you, let me see if I can find that. This one right here?
Yeah, that one.
Okay, perfect. So let me just, all right, let me just put it together and then we can just quickly go. All right, so I think I got it. I love what you did. I think it's brilliant and very interesting. And I love the fact that you actually brought like an urban landscape. Well done. I like the composition. I love the really strong perspective of the lines. That's really, really cool. And how it's organized, the palm tree, it's just beautiful. So I would say a couple of things in the sense of, oops, sorry. Compositionally, I think it's amazing. I love how you faded the poles. So I think that's very good. I would possibly just give a little bit of TLC to the palm tree.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. to bring more TLC, meaning like value work. So I feel like it's outdoor and there's a lot. I know that it looks different when you are actually looking at them, but with palm trees, I love the fact that there are more shadows concentrated in the middle. So I would just like spend a little bit more time, if you have it, just to build more values, like darker values, and perhaps a few ecru highlights of the dry leaves on top to create a little bit more variations. Because right now the palm tree looks great, but there's too much of a dominance of that green.
Right.
And that kind of like flattens the opportunity to create more of a rounder or cylindric area with more density and see-through elements. So yeah, I would just bring some patches of dark notes and some of the dry leaves to break that up. So I also love that you brought this tree, the reddish tone. It feels like a nice counterbalance to the green, so it's not all green. So this actually feels really beautiful. There's also something about, and I know that it's different, but I love the gradation, and especially with urban landscapes. There's something really cool about the gradation of a clear sky and how you have here an opportunity to just bring that depth. Because when we look up in the sky, it feels the same blue. It's only when we lower our eye level that we see a little bit of gradation between the smog and then the deeper blue sky on top. So consider just creating, if you want to, that gradation from the urban area. It would almost help you frame the pieces of the buildings, which I think it's really brilliant, and then really bring some rhythm between the fog and the area closer to the eye level, and then the deeper blue of the sky. Because right now it's also very dominant, even though there are highs and lows, it dominates a lot. The intensity of the blue almost becomes very dominant.
Right.
So
yeah, I was feeling that too.
Yeah, I think that will just help you separate or distinguish the buildings from the sky, which I think it's really cool that you brought this in. In fact, if you wanted to, I mean, it depends on how much and time you want to allocate. But I love the entangled, almost like lines. So I would just bring more almost. If you just create that more of a thin decolored or desaturated space between the blue of the sky on top and the urban landscape, you could bring more even with charcoal, or if you have a really small brush, I would just bring more lines. There's something really cool about that.
Cool.
And then in regards of the crow, I think you did a phenomenal job, and especially because of the bluish tones. I would possibly just bring a little bit more of a highlight on the beak. And then in regards of the wing, so here's something also similar to what I mentioned to Julie. You know, you have some reflective feathers on the wing, and then there is a high contrast underneath a little bit. So I would kind of like bring that a little bit more possibly. So more reflective feathers, and then leave the contrast. And also on the belly, just bringing, you did it, but maybe drawing wise. So let me see if I can just bring the annotation here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. So in regards of this curvature, you see almost this alignment right here. And I know that this makes a belly, but you see almost an alignment right here. So there's almost like a breaking point that makes it a little bit more like sitting upright. So I feel like here, let me see if I can, well, no, you did it. Never mind. Yeah, possibly I would just expand the belly a little bit more because this feels like very vertical. I would shorten it and bring the belly, flatten it a little bit more. Yeah, because it's going to help you also separate it from the verticality of the palm tree. Because right now this drops a lot. and it feels almost like too parallel to the palm tree. So I would make these a little bit shorter and then bring or start the curvature of the belly a little bit earlier.
Okay.
But good job with the holding of the feet, because that was the tricky part here. Yeah, good job with that. Yeah, I would possibly, if you work with the lighter blue, I know that it's there, but value-wise, it's very similar, both of them. So the feet, the fingers look, they seem very thick. And it's not because they're thick, it's because the blue on the background has the same value. So if you lighten this up a little bit, it would just help you make the feet a little bit thinner, the fingers.
Okay. Cool.
Oh God, Jackie, amazing composition as usual. I just love what you chose. Yeah, that's such a great eye. It's your job, obviously. So well done. You're putting it, it's a perfect way of using your artistic eye, cinematic eye, and your painting, combined. I'm always blown away. So well done.
Thanks. This one's the view from my balcony, and I actually have a bunch of crows that live right next to me. So
awesome.
This one's perfect.
That's good. And it means good luck and good news coming to you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks.
And Dina, I mean,
I think I try to get it as close to the reference as possible, but I think the neck, it kind of is too thin or too long, but I'm gonna still work on it.
Okay, well, I'm gonna use the image reference because I think drawing wise, I sense something, but I just want to say how amazing this looks, so peaceful and calm. Yeah, it just looks beautiful. I mean, and the values are very harmonious. There's the range of temperature on the feathers. So, and then the selection of the background also works really well. It feels very well integrated. Compositionally, for me, this is an example of how leaving enough room, more than enough room, it just creates a certain energy on the painting itself. And without even trying to say something, it says something, leaving that much space. So yeah, I love that. So let me see if I can bring the image reference, which is...
Well, when I saw other painters, they integrated more than just the crow. It made me think, I need to add something. So I love that picture of the boy and the crow.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I took a picture of that as a screenshot. It's so beautiful. Maybe I can be daring and try something and just maybe like vague in the background type of thing.
Well, give it a try, because I was thinking of you and I thought, Dina's just gonna combine some something. It's gonna bring some teacup,
I was running
origami.
Yeah. So that's why I thought, oh, you know what? I think if there's possibly a little, I could add a little something. So, well, I wanted to see. I wanted to see what you were going to say about the crow first.
Well, yeah. So I think this is the image reference, right? Oops, sorry. It just keeps jumping. So, it didn't do it. Okay, let me see if we have any luck here. Let me see. Okay, so hopefully this will do it. I'm not gonna move it because I don't want to lose it, but I will tell you a couple of things, just the way it is right now. So I feel like, and again, I think we should do more birds. I mean, we should do more everything, but anyhow, so I feel like the back of the head, the neck actually. So the neck, it's a little bit longer. So it makes, on the photograph, it makes the head really stand out with pride. So there's something about that drop, a longer drop, because you you brought the broken line between the neck and the body a little bit higher, but there's something about this longer neck before it breaks into the feathers that really pulls the head out in a really nice way. So I would just tweak that break of the line on the back. So I'm looking at the negative space, which is great in that sense because you have such neutral space. If I look at the negative space, I'm gonna try to draw this. Hold on one second. I'm gonna try to draw this. You have this kind of like a strong uh, straight line. Then, oops, you have this another straight line, and then this drops in a way outwards almost. Oops, it just disappeared. Never mind. So let me see. I'm just gonna go back here, and then I'm just gonna bring this if it allows me. So I would say here, I think you brought the curvature, which is fine, but it just makes it look like a different subject almost. So consider or contemplate the idea of doing something on the lower beak. And then I just feel like this, the belly starts uh, very high up when I observed on the image that it kind of like has like a teardrop effect and it just comes forward a little bit more. So I think silhouette wise, just compare it, go back and forth. And I mentioned it to Julie, I think a couple of weeks ago when we did studio time, that sometimes what I do is I take a picture of the painting in the same way that I have the photograph on my phone. And then I just flip back and forth, fast back and forth, and it allows me to see the differences. It's almost like one of those games where there's a bird on one side and there's a cage on the other side of the tablet, and then you spin them and then you see the bird inside of the cage. So
I see.
yeah, so sometimes flipping back and forth or putting it side by side allows me to identify if there's any tweaks. So I would say drawing wise, the tweaks would be on the silhouette.
You see there's a line, the base in the chest, it actually came out more. And that my drawing, you can very faintly, you can see that line that I was trying to cover it up. Because I was trying to, it was originally, that's what my eye saw. And then my eye started tricking me. And then I pulled it in some, but I should have
Well,
left it
yeah, I
out.
mean, again, see what your artistic,
Yeah.
yeah, but the slightest change, and this is a good example or a good idea when we, for example, when we work with hair, and the slightest change will change the person. We think everything's on the facial features, but anything that changes that silhouette will, yeah, will be different. This, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it's a matter of like how comfortable you are being able to recognize and then either incorporating or not. So this looks exquisite and amazing, and it doesn't feel like something is off or stands out, or there's a trumpet that's making too much noise. Everything falls in perfectly and beautifully. But there's certainly a difference. I feel like this is it has more a softer look, like a crow. It feels more like a pigeon almost.
Yeah, I was gonna say that looks like more it needs to be beefed up a bit. So it looks like a crow. And after you were sharing information and fun facts about crows, it's so funny because you said around fall, right time. And yesterday I was at one park and I saw these crows and I almost took a picture of them, but I didn't. And then today I was at another park and I saw more crows, and it was just a pair. You know how you were saying that they were just together. They were within distance where they would see each other, they'd get closer and then they'd separate, but they didn't go very far from each other. It was cute because you could tell it was just two of them. And it's just so funny that you chose this theme and you you shared the educated us with fun facts about them, and then we see it, right before our eyes. So thank you.
Oh, Dina, that makes me so happy. We got an email from Charlotte, and she was saying that the place where she lives,
Oh,
she did some construction work, and there used to be crows hanging out. And because of the construction, they used to eat at some place in the property, but they just left,
oh.
because of the construction. So because of the subject, she's very, very busy and is not able to paint, but she left a nice comment on our YouTube page. And she said that now she's going to make an effort and see if she's going to try to lure them back in.
They're probably in the area,
Yeah.
they're probably in the area, and they'll probably come back. But and I especially like the story about the dog. It's so cute because they're having their own little conversation back and forth, and it's a connection. It's just doesn't even matter. It's a habit type of thing, so they greet each other. I think that was really
Oh,
sweet. That's really sweet to hear that.
thank you, Dina. Yeah, I just have to say so many things, obviously, but for me, this was also very good to learn all these things because I have a different take. And I remember, Jen, if you remember, we did an assignment once, a long time ago, with charcoal. We did charcoal drawings, but I think it was only one day, and we only did like a couple of drawings. Do you remember that session?
I don't.
Oh, I
It makes me
think
sad
maybe.
because I love it.
Say that again.
I said that makes me sad because our charcoal sessions are my favorite.
Yeah, I have to find it, but I think it was only one day, and it wasn't. But we didn't do this deep dive, and it was so good to do this just because I see them with different eyes right now, and for me, now I see them with such a symbols of like freedom almost, because they're very independent and they have this sense of pride and in their intelligence also. The fact that they communicate, they have so many um, uh, um, ways of labeling things there. By the way, something that I didn't put is that they are self-aware, so they are aware of their existence, so that makes them have self-conscience compared to other animals. So they're which is incredible because they can reflect. Basically they can have thoughts about their actions and reflect on them, not only on their own actions, but on the actions of others. So that level of intelligence, the self-awareness, it's also extraordinary. So everything combined, and the fact that they don't care, they're just hanging out, they just feel like symbols of freedom, almost independence and freedom. So for me, I just have more respect when I see them, because they don't really care. They feel like really almost um, daring. There's a sense of like not confrontational, but there's something about them that they're like not shy. Anyhow, Dina, so thanks for bringing that up, and I agree, and thanks for sharing the story. I think that's beautiful, and ultimately, I was going to say this is a matter of choice. It depends on where you want to take. No one's telling you that you need to beef anything up or making more softer or more angular. So it's up to you. And ultimately, these paintings are meant to be seen without the image references. So yeah, you check it where you want it. And I think that's all. Jen, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Sorry. It was a silent moment of nodding.
Is there anyone else? Please, if you're there and we haven't said anything, speak. Type something up or just add a notes and a text message. But I think we covered that. I'm so happy about these paintings. They look so fantastic. I'm gonna continue. Whoops. I'm gonna continue working on mine. I just feel. Let me just see if I can find it. I want to continue working on mine. I want to work on the background. I will definitely use this on Wednesday for studio time. On Tuesday, I'm going to send a note to everyone on Tuesday during the Ruthless Ink Colloquium. We'll talk about some technical aspect, but then if you have any noses, and I know that we have two, um, we'll invite everyone who did a nose as an assignment, and then we'll also give feedback. We want to give a little bit more time for people, but I'll definitely work on the crow. I'll just try to develop more values. I'll work on the rest of the body, but yeah, I'm really happy. I'm very happy that we worked on this today, you guys, not only because of the symbolism and the conceptual aspect and the fact that we were able to integrate it with our own experience of being isolated when someone else outside is having such a great time. But I just feel like as a subject, from the painter's point of view, the fact that we can work with variations of value and color, it's really helpful for our own practice. So thank you guys so much. So to Tuesday, Ruthless Ink Colloquium. Wednesday, we're gonna do studio time. We had 2 sessions prep for Saturday. I think we mentioned on studio time this week to go to Forest Lawn, but obviously we canceled and postponed those sessions. So we were gonna go out and paint, but these are really terrible times. Be careful, you guys. When I leave the house to buy groceries, I just left to print something out and I put 3 masks on. I know that doesn't mean anything, but be extra careful. This is not really scary, and just be safe. Stay home if you can. And I don't know. I just can't wait for this to be over, but it's just going to take some time, I guess. So thank you, Jen, for all the work and the feedback.
Thank you, friend.
It's really good.
Everybody.
And yeah, thank you guys. And I can wait for you to work a little bit more on the paintings, and so we can start sharing them.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dina. And everyone else, thank you so much. I'm gonna do my best to send the link as soon as possible. So if anyone wants to reply, and then keep uploading. So we'll just give some feedback to any work. All right.
Great weekend. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much. Good job.
Thank you. Bye.